my name is Justin Bright, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program version 1.8.1 in my next small step RP-1 career mode playthrough. And we are back. We are back to it in the orbit of Mars. I have here the Mars Exploration System 1. I've done a whole bunch of planning and designing of new vessels that we will be using, but for future missions, and also to, how do you put it, to redo the missions that we've failed so far. Because of the catastrophic landing attempt of my long, thin, stick-like lander that was not doomed to fail. Like, I've definitely tested it such that it was able to work in some of my tests. But when I went in to do it in real life, I was not able to actually replicate it. And I do try very hard not to save scum too much anyways. But it's not a failed mission by any stretch of the imagination. There is a lot of stuff that is still here that is still going to be, hopefully, successful. We have a couple more parts of this. We have the communications network that we're going to deploy into orbit of Mars, and we also have this return capsule. And I've discussed those at length before, so let's not waste too much time with that. But the general idea is that, there's a couple more things. First, we have the Martian moonhopper is going to be arriving in the system in about 30 days. And with that, we are going to be able to get some science from the other moons, the moons of Mars. And once we've gotten some of that science and got some of that landed science, I can't remember which one I have the contract for, but it's Deimos landing. There's like a sample return from somewhere. I've got so many contracts right now, you guys. Phobos sample return. Gotcha. So I have, once I get a sample from Phobos, we are going to go ahead and dock up with this bit here, and then we are going to be able to send this whole kit back to Earth and return some of that science. And so I will have kind of two options here. Either I can it's not moving and it's freaking me out. Oh, there it goes. So either we can wait for the other return capsule, because I have the second version of the of a Mars lander that it's been designed anyways. I haven't sent it out or anything, but I have that, but it's a matter of actually sending it out here. So do I wait for that to get here, or do I wait for the next one to come and then have both samples returned at the same time, or do I try to like pack on an extra return capsule with the other one? It seems better to just leave this one in orbit and wait for to do both returns at the same time, but I do need to make sure about how long this is going to last and when the contracts are going to end and all of that. So anyways, I am attempting to get into the resonant orbit for to put these communication satellites synchronous to Mars. So we're looking at 25689 is what I'm looking for as far as that's concerned. 5689. Okie dokie. And now I need to change my para-Arian to 17051. 17051. And that is the actual synchronous orbit, I think. Yes, that's correct. So, and I do that at the next Apa-Arian, create and execute. And so what that's going to do is, that's going to put us into an orbit that, as you can see, is a little bit... Yeah, so what that's going to end up doing is, I can execute this node. That's going to put us into an orbit that is just underneath the, underneath the orbit of Deimos. So it shouldn't ever intersect, and that shouldn't cause it, so that shouldn't cause any problems. But that is the synchronous orbital altitude on Mars. So we are going to be relatively stationary according to observers on the surface. It's not actually important in any way, but I wanted it to be really close to I wanted it to be out in between the moons and pretty high up so that we have really good coverage of everything. I want to make sure that we can cover all of our orbits around the planet, or for any rovers or anything else, and just be able to communicate with pretty much everything, and also on the moons. It's a little bit harder on the moons but they're tiny little potato things, so it shouldn't be that much of a problem. So yeah, this is the mission as it was always intended to be run. I decided to just leave this in whatever orbit it happened to be in, because I really don't think it matters. And once I've dropped off the satellites, then I will bring this down into another orbit to see what I can do with that. These do have a little bit of fuel on there, but I don't remember how much, so I don't really want to mess with it all that much. But I think that they should have plenty of fuel to actually do the circularization each time that we get to the top of the orbit. And the synchronous orbit is at 17, so we're going to be dropping off at the para-Aryan each time. All right, so we're coming down to the para-Aryan. It's going to be a bit of a weird thing, but I really don't think it's going to matter that much, because we are at a high enough altitude that we should have pretty well full coverage of the planet, I think. Question mark? But yeah, these have a little 1 meter parabolic antenna and at tech level 5 S-band transmitting back to Earth, and then a level 5 UHF antenna cranked up to 35 dBm, which should, in theory, give us good connection to anything on the surface, so long as they also have a decently cranked up little antenna, omni antenna like that. But let's go ahead and decouple one of these satellites and see how this will work. Oh dear, that pops off at just a enormous clip. That's not super great. Oh my god, they have 700 meters per second. Okay, so this is fine. So we are going to kill rotation. All right, everything seems to be working. That's fantastic. I hope this doesn't, like... God, is that going to make it, like, really unbalanced, I wonder? Oh, dear. But anyways, so the synchronous orbit is 17051877. Point towards the node, and I'll just do this manually. This should be fine. And whoops, a little early. Oh yeah, that thing is actually totally still attached and has mass. That didn't occur to me at all. I thought for sure that that would not be still stuck on there, and also that it would not have mass, for goodness sake. But wow, okay, that's fine. And execute this node, and but I have put on here a set of 4 45 Newton RCS thrusters using the same Aerozine and NTO fuel, and we have a lot of extra fuel, so we should, in theory, be able to... Oh my gosh, it's so off balance. We should be able to actually make this work. It's just going to require a little bit of extra fuel to kind of tweak this down. Because as you may recall, the important thing is to make sure that the orbital parameters are as close as possible to each other. Most importantly being the orbital period. So if we get the orbital period pretty much there within a couple of seconds, let's abort node, execution, kill rotation. I should probably just do this manually, because MechJeb is definitely wondering why the heck this is so badly balanced. And honestly, I am too. So let's get we want the eccentricity down as low as possible, and we want the orbital period to just be at some number, right? Like we want that to be, let's see, I could just say 17051 is where we want to be. 17050 by, okay, so the perfectly synchronous orbital period is 24 hours, 37 minutes, 22.7 seconds. So let's try to get as close to that as we can. Okay, so within a tenth of a second is probably fine. So I'm going to just aim for the 22.2-ish. 22.25 is really where we're looking for. And as you might recall, that's going to give us some hundreds of years of accurate orbit with these two. So let's take a look at this and make sure that everything is good. Because with the avionics shut off, we have perpetual power for a good long time before the radioisotope generators decay enough to make it so that we do not have signal anymore. But that should do it. We have a direct connection to the Madrid Deep Space Network station at 141 bits per second, which is just fantastic. So that does it for this one. Now we have to just do this twice more. All right, so we are coming on down for the third of 3 of our communications satellites. So you can kind of see the other 2 getting into position. That will be a nice, perfect 3 points on the circle. And, well, maybe not perfect, but as close as I can get it. And that will do it for us. So that is pretty darn exciting. I'm really looking forward to having solid connection at all times, because as I'm testing rovers, I'm finding that that is such a problem. I sincerely wish that I could make this not decouple so hard, but I'm trying to point us in the right direction so that we go kind of well, if I go straight this way, yeah, that's kind of prograde, right? I actually want to be, I'm at my para-Arian, so we want to be like pointed this way. I'm trying to fire it off so that the Delta V actually helps us. But we'll see. And away we go. Still rotation on the service bus, and then we take a look at this, and yeah, there we go. We didn't ruin our orbit all that much, and things haven't changed terribly, so that's fine. All right, so we're just holding it nodeward, and I'm just going to burn, and holding, just actually doing like holding nodeward seems to work better than doing execute next node, so we will just do that, which will make my life a little bit easier. Because you see, like, we have the torque with our control surfaces or control modules to actually make this work, like to deal with the imbalance, but it's a little bit tougher when it's off balance, you know? Okay, so remove all nodes, that's fine. Kill rotation, point us prograde. There we go, because we are pretty close at this point. We just need to accelerate to zero out our eccentricity, and we are looking at, I'm actually going to turn off the smartass to remove that feature as well. So 1 day, 37 minutes, 22.51 seconds. 22.52. Okay, so that actually means that we have 2 satellites that are exactly at this orbital period, 22.52 seconds, and one that is at 22.51. So I think that's going to be just fine. So yeah, there we go. Make sure this antenna is extended. I guess I need to go double check that. I didn't think to. But yeah, that should do it. Gosh darn it. Very excited about this. We can turn off our avionics, rename to Mars Relay 3. I don't know what hotkey I'm pressing that turns on nav HUD, but it turns on every time I type that word. So yeah, there we go. That is communication around Mars. So between these 3, which you can see, we have 1, 2, and 3, and between the 3 of them, they should have full communications with the ground at all times. So that should dramatically improve our ability to have communications on the ground for rovers, for landers, and also for our crewed vessels that we are going to be sending later on. So yay, that's so exciting. So I'm just going to do one last thing. I'm going to triple check that all of the antennas are extended on all 3 of these. But after that, we will call this mission good for now, and then jump back to the main bus of the Mars Exploration System 1 to see what I can do about leaving it in an orbit that is useful later on. All right, so we are back to our Mars Exploration System bus. This has a decoupler, but I still need to be able to attach to things. So this docking port is going to be used to deposit the samples in the return capsule ideally from both the Martian Moonhopper and also from the next Mars transfer window when I send another lander and return capsule. That would save me a lot of effort in making another one of these and dropping it into this orbit, but we'll see. Well, I mean, we'll just literally have to see about that because I'm not sure about the contract timelines and so forth. It makes a lot more sense to just do that, though, than it does to try to send a whole nother thing, because this thing weighs 7.5 or almost 8 tons, which is not nothing. But that's what we would require to get this thing back home. And it has power and all that other stuff. Yeah, so it makes a ton of sense to just leave this thing in orbit here as long as we possibly can to collect all the samples that we need and then bring all of it back home at once. So that is what I'm going to plan to do unless things get really weird about contract timelines. So I'm wondering what the best place is to put this thing, because I'm not going to need it for a while. Like, it's going to be a while for Martian Moonhopper is going to finish its science, because as you recall, I was able to kind of bounce around all the different biomes on Deimos and Phobos and get just a tremendous amount of science from that. But it takes like 90 days, 100 days, some number of days on each one, because there's a lot of Kerbalism experiments that take that long. So I want to make sure that I have the time to, strike that, reverse it. I have tons of time. I have way too much time. And I want to, I don't need to be hasty about what I do with this vessel yet. This is going to be the return vehicle, so I don't need to stress about getting it set up until, it's time to return. So what I think the thing to do at this point is to go into an advanced transfer to another planet and see what our return to Earth window looks like. And that does look like there's a very definitive window. Right in here, if we include the capture burn, it's 5,000 meters per second, which is a little bit more than we actually have. So hopefully, not hopefully, I'm definitely going to be able to remove this and have that be just fine. But I think this is a lunar rated heat shield, and so in theory I should be able to dump this thing directly into the atmosphere and do like a direct aerobrake pass, and I could even use like all of the delta, like put this on a 60-kilometer trajectory into Earth's atmosphere, burn every last drop of fuel that I have left on the way in to slow us down, and then just rely on the parachute and the heat shield to deal with the rest. So that is my thinking there, and that is I'm not going to have the 4,900 meters per second of Delta V to both leave and then also capture around Earth, because I'm going to need to do some orbital maneuvers here to get closer to the surface to make it easier and all of that. So the question is, where do I want to actually go? Oh, wait, no, I have another question first. First, it's, let's see, our first node, the first possible time to leave is in 263 days. So that would mean that we would be leaving after Martian Moonhopper 2 got here, but before the next window. So let's see, if we remove this, and then we look at this one, it's in 2 years, 269 days. So that's a long time. 1,000 days is a very, very long time. but that would be enough to get both of these out. Gosh, 1,000 days. Man, that's so long. I'm wondering if it wouldn't be easier just to send another return vehicle for that and just use this for the Martian Moonhopper so we can at least nail those contracts. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a note on each one of these. So Mars, Earth, transfer window. Have 2, 6, 3, 4 hours, 18, whatever. Boop. Have another one. No reason not to document both of these. So we are going to have this 2 years, 271 days, 271, 9 hours, 9 minutes. Boop. Okay. So, that. There we go. Okay, so yeah, that's what that looks like, and so now we can just go look at our contracts and so forth. But there is absolutely no reason for me to rush this, so we have plenty of fuel. All the propellants are perfectly storable, and we have power that is generated by a thermoelectric generator, so we have no issues there. And so long as the avionics are shut down, we have plenty of power, so we do not have to worry about that. So this is just something that I'm going to leave in orbit for now, and we will deal with how we're going to finish this mission when it's actually time to finish the mission. So yeah, we're going to call this at least partially successful. This had a lot of objectives, and we failed some and we succeeded at some, so that feels very much like the way that these things actually go in real life. Like, there's a lot of landers that just crash into Mars. I think somebody mentioned on one of the comments a while back that Mars exploration missions, like surface exploration missions, have about a 50% success rate at this point, something like that. So I'm well within parameters so far. So yeah, we're going to call that good for now and move on to our next exploration, which might be the Martian Moonhopper, but I know I also have a couple of new things cooking. Yeah, we have a commercial mission actually coming up. Oh, well, that makes things simple. I don't actually have a Mars sample return mission. I have a Phobos sample return mission, which is absolutely perfect. So yeah, what I can do now is I can hook up with the Martian Moonhopper after it gets a sample off of Phobos, and then I can send that home. And then we don't have to worry about the 1,000-day transfer window. Although, it would be fine even if we did. They give plenty of time for the more complicated missions, thank goodness. All right, here on the pad, we have brand new pilot Elvira Lopatina, Bruce Henderson, and we have Christine Adams, a scientist, with Bruce being our engineer. We've got a new crew that is heading out on our Apollo 4? Yeah, Apollo 4, the long-duration mission that is heading to the moon to attempt to do what I failed to do last time. 2 seconds, 1, and ignition. And we have the slow, laborious liftoff of the Paladin 4 rocket. Oh my god, that feels so slow. Allegedly, that's 1.18 surface level thrust, but man, that feels very low. I guess, you know, less than 20% of additional thrust above gravity's pull would look just about like that. So there you have that. In any case, we are on our way with our newly remodeled Apollo Block 3 spacecraft with the custom-built what do you call it? With a custom-built service module on top of our Paladin 4B launcher, which has the 4 F1 engines, which, I mean, I could move up to the 5, but this is a little bit cheaper, a little bit easier to build, a little bit quicker, and all of that, so there's no real problem with that so far. So yeah, brand new rocket ish. I don't think I've ever launched it in quite this configuration. Definitely not with people in it before. But yeah, we are on our way up to the moon, and we are trying to finish up a mission that we did before, where we are going to do 2 different things. We are looking for the crew duration record of 30 days, which is also what the Lunar Space Station contract is going to require. So that's 30 days, and they have to just hang out in the crew capsule on the moon and then come back home. So we'll be able to get those 2 contracts. And then also we have the crewed lunar orbit with 2 mission once again, which last time was a little bit problematic, if only because it was at a very high inclination, like above 90 degrees, so it was actually slightly retrograde, and I wasn't able to get there and then get back, right? So I need to actually see what the inclination is of Lunat Station around the moon, so that I can make sure that I'm able to get into that orbit, to both get into that orbit and also get into the orbit of this one, which is above 55 degrees. Because we just need to do this for 2 days, but yeah, I'm not sure what the inclination is, so we're going to have to see how much I'm going to be able to do simultaneously, and whether it would be better to do the getting into orbit of the moon first, like go directly into this orbit first, or first get into the crude duration 30 days space station first. I feel my instinct right now, before I actually know what the math looks like, is to get the space station contract done first, because that's the more valuable of the 2, and the harder of the 2 missions to accomplish. So we'll see. All right, just a couple seconds until first stage burnout. Here we go. We've got the escape system launching away, the 4 J2s lighting up very nicely, and we're going to do a little bit of time warping here. I've got my better time warp on because I was doing some tests on a Venus lander. Not just a lander, but a rover. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, there's going to be some really cool stuff that we are going to be coming up with in the not too distant future. But yeah, it has required me to play around a little bit with the settings. But yeah, so this is the Paladin 4B, and this is using the first launch of my custom service module. I'm no longer using the standard Apollo service module, because we're already using the Apollo Block 3 command module. So there's no real reason to keep everything as stock as possible. We are going to be, I wanted to reduce the cost as much as I could, and that was one way to do it. All right, a couple seconds until we fire up the 3rd stage of our Saturn 4B. And away we go. One last J2 is going to get us up into our orbit and then push us on towards the moon. All right, so we are just about in orbit, and this has just been fantastic so far. No complaints whatsoever about this craft, and hopefully we are going to be able to do really well with this so far, with this new craft. There's not a whole lot like functionally different between this service module and the stock one, but it just uses some custom modules and some custom fairing bits here to cover up the stuff that we've got inside, which makes it a little bit easier for me to manage, because I know exactly what's in here, because this is just a payload fairing and an interstage that on the inside we have all the custom business. So now let's go ahead and get the transfer out to the moon. Just, by impulsive transfer to the target. And there we go. So now we will get to that, and need to just go see real quick. If I look at Lunat Station, what the inclination is. A little bit hard to tell from here, but it is looks pretty darn equatorial, so I may want to do this first and then see what I can do about getting into the extra orbit, the crude lunar orbit with 2 orbit afterwards. So let's get on to this. Sorry for the abrupt cut there, but we are just out of time. Some things came up and we had to cut this one into two-parter. So we'll just have to leave that as a lovely little cliffhanger. We will get to the moon in the next episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe, tell your friends, all that, and I will see you next time.